There is a kitchen, somewhere far from here, where the light is always the color of honey, just as the sun begins to lower itself behind the hills. And if you close your eyes right now, you can already feel yourself standing at the edge of it, barefoot on worn wooden floorboards that still hold the day's warmth. Let yourself sink a little deeper into the place where you are resting. Let your shoulders soften. Let your hands rest open, palms loose, fingers still. There is nowhere else you need to be tonight, and nothing left to finish. Whatever the day asked of you has already been given. What remains now is only this, a farmhouse kitchen, a slow dusk settling gold and rose over the hills outside the window, and the quiet, ordinary comfort of a family gathering at the end of another long, unremarkable, beautiful day. You do not need to hold on to anything. You do not need to remember any of this in the morning. You only need to let it move through you, slow as smoke rising from a chimney, slow as the last light sliding down a stone wall. So let your eyes rest closed. Let your breath find its own quiet rhythm, in and out, unhurried, the way water moves along a riverbed that has known its own course for 100 years. And let yourself arrive, gently, in the farmhouse kitchen at dusk. The kitchen sits at the heart of an old stone farmhouse, the kind of house that has settled comfortably into the land around it over many decades, its walls thick and cool, its low beams darkened by years of wood smoke and steam and the circular gold light that comes only at the end of a summer day. Outside, beyond the wavy old glass of the windows, the fields stretch out in long, soft rows, wheat-coloured and quiet, bending only slightly under a breeze that has grown gentle now that the heat of the afternoon has passed. Somewhere far off, a dog barks once, then settles. A bell on a goat somewhere down near the barn gives a single soft clink, then falls silent again. The world outside is winding down exactly the way you are winding down, slowly, without any rush, matching your own breath. Inside, the kitchen holds the last warm light of the day the way cupped hands hold water. The sun comes low through the west-facing window, above the deep stone sink, and lands in a long amber stripe across the wooden table, across the flour dusted along one corner of it, across the chipped blue pitcher that has held wildflowers and milk and cider for longer than anyone in the house can quite remember. Dust motes drift through that stripe of light, rising and falling so slowly it seems as though time itself has slowed to match them, turning and turning in the honeyed air, weightless, unhurried, going nowhere at all. You can watch them drift if you like, letting your mind follow their slow, spiraling path the way you might follow snow falling outside a window, until your thoughts, too, begin to drift instead of race, and settle instead of scatter. The stove sits along the far wall, black iron softened by heat and years of use, its firebox glowing faintly orange behind a small round window in its door, embers settling into themselves with the occasional soft tick and sigh. Above it, a great black pot simmers, low and slow, and every few minutes a curl of steam lifts from beneath its lid and rises toward the low-beamed ceiling, carrying with it the smell of onions gone soft and golden, of thyme and bay leaf, of a stock that has been quietly building its flavour since early in the afternoon. The smell settles into the air of the kitchen the way a warm blanket settles over shoulders, thick and rounded and entirely without hurry, filling every corner of the room until the whole space seems to hum faintly with the promise of dinner not yet ready, but close and worth the waiting. Beside the stove, a wooden spoon rests across the lip of a bowl, and flour dusts the counter in a pale, soft layer, handprints pressed into it here and there where someone has been kneading dough, folding it over and over, patient and rhythmic, the way you might fold a thought over and over in your mind until it grows smooth and quiet instead of sharp. A round of dough rests now beneath a clean cloth, rising slowly in the warmth near the stove, and if you watch closely enough, and if you are patient enough, You might notice it has grown, ever so slightly, since you first looked, swelling gently the way your own breath swells and falls, without any effort from you at all. The table itself runs long down the center of the room, its wood pale and worn smooth by decades of elbows and dinners and quiet mornings, its surface holding faint rings from teacups long finished, faint nicks from knives that have chopped 1,000 vegetables over the years. Along its length, mismatched chairs wait in various states of pushed in and pulled out, as though the family has only just stepped away for a moment, though in truth they are only now beginning to gather, drifting in from other rooms and other rings, corners of the farm the way birds drift back to a single tree as evening falls. Outside the window, above the sink, the sky has begun its long, unhurried change from blue to gold to a deep, dusty rose, the sun sitting low and heavy above the far tree line, softened by a faint haze of dust and warmth rising from the fields. The light catches on the edges of the barn roof, turning the old tin the color of a dying ember, and touches the tips of the tall grass at the field's edge with a thin line of gold, so that for a moment the whole world outside the window seems dipped in honey, glowing softly, holding its breath before the blue quiet of night settles in. A single swallow dips low across the yard, then rises again, then is gone, and the yard falls still, and the light keeps sinking, slow as a held breath being slowly released. Let that light settle over you now too, wherever you are resting. Let it move across your own shoulders, warm and low and gold, the way it moves across the farmhouse table, across the flour-dusted counter, across the worn wooden floor. There is nothing here that needs your attention. There is nothing here that needs solving. There is only the slow gold light, and the smell of something warm cooking low on the stove, and the quiet, ordinary comfort of a house settling into evening. From somewhere down the hallway, footsteps approach, unhurried, soft against old wood, and a woman appears in the kitchen doorway, an apron tied loosely at her waist, sleeves pushed up past her elbows. She has been out in the garden most of the afternoon, and there is still a faint smell of tomato, leaves and warm soil on her hands as she moves toward the stove and lifts the lid from the great black pot, letting a fresh cloud of fragrant steam rise up and curl toward the ceiling. She does not rush. She stirs the pot slowly, once, twice, the wooden spoon moving in an easy circle, and then she tastes it from the edge of the spoon, tilting her head slightly, considering, before adding one more small pinch of salt and stirring again. Satisfied, she replaces the lid, and the low simmering sound resumes, soft and steady, like a slow and patient heartbeat, somewhere at the center of the house. Behind her, an older man enters next, moving a little more slowly, a little more deliberately, the quiet ease of someone who has done this same walk from barn to kitchen 10,000 evenings before. He carries with him the smell of hay and cool evening air, and he sets a small basket of eggs on the counter near the door before crossing to the sink to wash his hands, the water running warm and unhurried over his palms. He glances toward the window, toward the fields turning gold and rose beyond the glass, and for a moment he simply stands there, watching the light fall, the way you might watch it too, letting the day settle out of him, the way sediment settles slowly to the bottom of still water. A young girl comes next, her bare feet quiet on the floorboards, a small dog trotting close behind her, claws clicking softly against the wood before curling into a warm patch of fading sun near the stove and sighing itself into stillness. The girl climbs onto one of the mismatched chairs, kneeling up so she can see over the edge of the table, and begins, without being asked, to fold cloth napkins into loose, uneven triangles, humming some small tune to herself under her breath, a tune with no real shape or ending, just a soft, repeating hum that rises and falls, the way your own breath is rising and falling now, slow and even, needing nothing from you at all. One by one, the family settles into the kitchen, the way birds settle onto a wire at dusk, drifting in from their separate corners of the day, folding themselves quietly into the warm, golden room. No one speaks with any urgency. No one hurries. The conversation that begins is soft and low, the words themselves almost less important than the gentle rhythm of voices overlapping, pausing, drifting into comfortable silence, and then starting again, like the murmur of a stream over smooth stones, present and constant, asking nothing of the listener except to rest nearby and let the sound move past. The woman asks about the garden, and the man answers slowly, mentioning the tomatoes ripening late this year, the beans climbing higher than expected along their stakes, and his voice settles into the room the way the last of the daylight settles over the fields, low and warm and unhurried. The girl asks if she can stir the pot, and is lifted gently onto a stool so she can reach, the wooden spoon slow and careful in her small hand, her tongue caught briefly between her teeth in concentration as she moves it in one wide, careful circle. The dog shifts in its patch of sun, sighs again, and settles more deeply into sleep, one paw twitching faintly, chasing some soft dream across a field of its own. And all the while, outside the window, the light continues its long, slow fall from gold to rose to a deepening blue, the sky softening at its edges, the first faint stars beginning to show themselves one at a time, patient and unhurried, the way thoughts might surface one at a time in a mind that has finally been given permission to slow down. Let yourself rest here a while longer, in this kitchen, in this particular evening, in this particular gold and fading light. There is nothing you need to follow, no plot that needs untangling, no ending that needs reaching. There is only the pot simmering low on the stove, and the bread rising slow beneath its cloth, and the voices moving soft and low across the table, and the light falling gentle and golden through the window over and over, the same way, unhurried, endless, safe. At some point, without anyone quite deciding to begin it, the old man starts telling a story, the kind of story that has been told so many times before in this same kitchen that it has worn as smooth as the tabletop itself, every rough edge softened by repetition, every detail settled comfortably into its familiar place. It is a story about nothing very much at all. A long ago summer, a slow walk down to the river with his own father, a fish that got away, a nap taken in the shade of a particular willow tree that still stands, a little taller now, down past the lower field. There is no danger in it, there is no twist waiting at its end. It simply unspools, slow and warm, the way the last of the daylight unspools outside the window, and the girl listens with her chin still resting on her folded arms, her eyes drifting slowly shut and slowly open again, catching only every second or third sentence, and finding that enough, finding that more than enough. The woman listens too, half attending, half simply enjoying the low, familiar sound of his voice, a sound she has heard tell this same story 100 times before, in 100 slightly different versions, none of them quite the same, all of them somehow exactly the same. She stirs the pot once more without needing to, simply for the small pleasure of the motion, the wooden spoon circling slow through the thick, fragrant broth, steam rising in soft curls that catch the low gold light and then dissolve, unhurried, into the warm air above the stove. The dog too seems to listen, one ear twitching faintly at the rise and fall of the old man's voice. Though its eyes stay closed, its breathing slow and even, caught somewhere between waking and sleep, content to simply rest near the warmth of the fire and the familiar sound of a story it has, in its own way, heard many times before. Outside, as the story continues its slow unspooling, the light beyond the window continues its own slow unspooling too, gold sinking further into rose, rose deepening further toward blue, the whole sky changing so gradually that no single moment seems different from the moment before it, and yet, somehow, by the story's quiet end, the world outside has become an entirely different world, dim and soft and hushed, the first few stars now visible low above the tree line, patient and small and steady. The story finishes not with any particular ending, but simply by trailing off, the way a stream trails off into a wider, stiller pool. the old man's voice growing quieter and quieter until it settles into a comfortable, contented silence, and no one rushes to fill it. The silence itself becomes part of the evening, warm and easy, filled only with the low simmer of the pot, the soft tick of the clock, the occasional creak of an old chair shifting gently beneath someone's weight. The bread, when it is finally ready, comes out of the oven in a low, warm cloud of steam, its crust a deep amber brown, crackling faintly as it cools on a wire rack near the window. The smell of it fills the kitchen completely now, warm and yeasted and faintly sweet, mixing with the smell of the stew still simmering low on the stove, the two smells rising and blending together until the whole room seems wrapped in something soft and golden and entirely ratty. Good. The woman lifts the loaf carefully, sets it on a worn wooden board, and reaches for the long bread knife hanging beside the stove, its handle smooth and pale from years of use. The girl watches the bread with the particular patience of a child who knows that good things are harspeel, always worth waiting for, her chin resting on her folded arms atop the table, her eyes half closed, drifting slightly with the low golden light and the low golden smell of the kitchen around her. The dog, sensing bread, lifts its head briefly, considers the effort of getting up, decides against it, and settles again with a soft huff into its warm patch of fading sun. Outside, the last full light of the sun disappears behind the far hills, leaving behind only a soft wash of rose and lavender low along the horizon, deepening slowly into a rich, quiet blue overhead. The first true stars appear faint and scattered, and somewhere out past the barn, an owl calls once, low and soft, before falling silent again. The fields settle into shadow, row after row after row, the wheat losing its gold and taking on instead a deep, soft grey blue, the whole landscape folding itself gently into night, the way a hand might fold gently closed around something small and precious, holding it safe until morning. The bread is sliced, thick and warm, steam rising from each piece as it is set onto small plates around the table. Butter melts into it almost the moment it touches the warm crust, and the woman ladles the stew into wide, shallow bowls, the broth a deep amber gold, thick, with tart, soft vegetables and slow-cooked meat that falls apart at the gentlest touch of a spoon. The steam rises from each bowl in slow, curling ribbons, catching what little golden light remains from the low lamp now lit above the table, and the whole kitchen seems, for a moment, to glow softly from within, warm and close and entirely safe from the deepening dark outside the windows. They eat slowly, the way people eat when there is nowhere else to be and nothing left to rush toward. Spoons move unhurried from bowl to mouth. Bread is torn rather than cut, passed hand to hand around the table without any need for words. The conversation continues in its same low, comfortable rhythm, drifting from the garden to an old story about a summer storm years before, to the girl's day spent chasing the dog through the tall grass at the field's edge, her small voice rising and falling as she tells it, slower now, softer now, her eyelids beginning to grow heavy even as she speaks. The lamp above the table casts a warm, low circle of gold light over the family, over the table, over the bowls slowly emptying and the bread slowly disappearing crumb by crumb. And beyond that soft circle of light, the rest of the kitchen settles into a deep, comfortable dimness, the corners of the room folding into shadow, the old stone walls holding in the day's last warmth. The stove ticks softly as its embers continue to settle. The dog sighs once more in its sleep. The old clock on the far wall, its pendulum swinging slow and steady, marks the passing minutes with a soft, patient tick, 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 never hurrying, never slowing, simply continuing, the way your own heartbeat continues now, slow and steady and entirely without effort. As the meal winds down, the girl's spoon moves more and more slowly through what remains of her stew, her chin drooping lower toward her folded arm, her humming from earlier returning now only in soft, scattered fragments between long pauses. The man reaches over without a word, and gently moves her half-finished bowl a little further from the table's edge, and she does not protest, only shifts her head to a slightly more comfortable angle against her arm, her breathing already beginning to slow and deepen, the particular unguarded sleepiness of a child who has spent a long day outside in fresh air and warm sun. The woman rises quietly to clear the first few empty bowls, her movements soft and unhurried, careful not to disturb the low, settled peace that has filled the room. She moves to the sink, and the sound of water running is soft and constant, a gentle backdrop to the low conversation still continuing quietly between the man and no one in particular, half to himself, half to the dog, now stirring faintly at his feet, drawn by the smell of dishes being scraped clean. Outside, full night has now settled fully over the farmhouse, the sky deep and clear and scattered with stars, the moon just beginning to rise, pale and round above the dark line of the far hills. The fields lie silent and still beneath it, the wheat swaying only faintly now in a breeze grown cool and gentle with the night. Somewhere far off, crickets have begun their slow, steady chorus, a soft and constant hum that rises and falls like breath, like waves, like the quiet rhythm of a house settling itself down for the night. Inside, the kitchen begins its own slow settling. The stove's fire has burned low, embers glowing a deep, quiet orange behind the small round window in its door, giving off just enough warmth now to keep the room comfortable without demanding attention. The lamp above the table is dimmed low, its light soft and amber, gentle enough now not to disturb the girl who has slipped fully into sleep, her head resting on her folded arms, her small chest rising and falling slow and even, untroubled, entirely at peace. The man lifts her carefully into his arms, and she does not wake, only sighs once and settles her head against his shoulder, her small hand curling loosely against the fabric of his shirt. He carries her from the kitchen slowly, unhurried, his footsteps soft against the old wooden floor, and the sound of them fades gradually down the hallway, growing quieter and quieter, until the house holds only the low hum of crickets outside, and the soft ticking of the clock, and the quiet, steady breathing of the dog, now curled fully into sleep near the cooling stove. The woman finishes at the sink, drying her hands slowly on the edge of her apron, and pauses for a moment at the window above it, looking out at the moonlit fields, at the pale silver light now spreading slowly across the wheat, softening every edge, smoothing every shadow. She watches for a long moment, unhurried, her own breathing slowing to match the stillness outside, and then she too moves quietly from the room, dimming the lamp a little further as she goes, leaving behind only the faintest warm glow, low and gold, spreading soft across the worn wooden table. The kitchen rests now in its own quiet dusk-turned night, holding within its old stone walls all the warmth of the evening that has passed, the smell of bread and stew and wood smoke settling slowly into the beams overhead, into the flour still dusting one corner of the counter, into the folded napkins still resting where small hands left them. The pot on the stove sits empty now, but for its dark, glossy remnants, its heat fading slowly, the way heat fades from a stone left out in the last of the sun, gentle and unhurried and complete. Outside, the moon climbs higher, pale and full, and its light spills soft and silver through the wavy old glass of the windows, falling in long, quiet stripes across the wooden floor, across the table, across the empty chairs, still pushed back at odd, comfortable angles. Everything in the room seems to hold its breath in that light, still and soft and safe. The whole kitchen wrapped now in a hush so complete it seems to hum faintly, the way silence sometimes hums when it is deep enough and old enough and kind enough to hold you. If you are still here, still resting in this kitchen with me, let yourself sink further into it now. Let the last of your thoughts grow soft and slow, the way the light outside the window has grown soft and slow, fading from gold to rose to deep, quiet blue, and now to the pale silver hush of full moonlight over sleeping fields. There is nothing left to finish here. The bread has been eaten, The stew has been shared. The child has been carried gently to her bed, and the dog dreams on undisturbed near the cooling stove, and the old clock keeps its slow, steady rhythm in the dimness, patient, unhurried, endless. Somewhere far off, the owl calls once more, softer now, farther away, and the crickets continue their low, steady hum beneath the wide, star-scattered sky. The wheat in the fields bends gently under a breeze too soft to name, silver in the moonlight, endless in its slow, quiet motion, row after row after row, folding and unfolding, folding and unfolding, the way your own breath is folding and unfolding now, slower, softer, further away from thought and closer to rest. The kitchen holds its warmth a little longer. The beams overhead hold the smell of wood smoke a little longer. The old stone walls hold the day's heat a little longer, releasing it slowly, slowly into the cool night air, the way your own body is releasing its held tension now, slowly, slowly, into the soft place where you are resting. Let the moonlight rest over you now, the way it rests over the kitchen table, pale and quiet and undemanding. Let the low hush of crickets carry you the way it carries the sleeping fields. Let the soft, steady tick of the old clock mark the passing minutes for you, patient and unhurried, needing nothing from you at all, only your continued, gentle rest. There is a kitchen, somewhere far from here, holding its quiet warmth long into the night, and you are welcome to stay there as long as you like, safe in its low gold hush, safe in its soft moonlit stillness, safe in the slow, unhurried comfort of a house and a family settled fully, finally, into sleep. The stove embers dim further, glowing now only a faint, low orange, barely visible behind the small round window in the iron door. The dog's breathing slows further still, deep and even, undisturbed. The moonlight shifts, almost imperceptibly, across the floor, inch by inch, hour by hour, patient beyond patience, gentle beyond gentle. Outside, the fields sleep. The barn sleeps, its old boards settling faintly now and then, with a soft, comfortable creak, the sound of an old structure resting into itself for the night. The animals within it shift once, twice, then still. The whole farm, house and barn and field and hill folds itself slowly into the deep hush of night, and holds there, unmoving, unhurried, entirely at peace. And here, in this kitchen, in this moonlight, in this low and gentle hush, you may rest too. Let your breath grow slower. Let your thoughts grow quieter. Let the last small edges of the day dissolve softly into this deep, warm dark, the way sugar dissolves slowly into warm milk, disappearing without any effort at all, leaving behind only sweetness, only stillness, only rest. Let us stay a little longer here in this low and gentle hush, because there is no reason yet to leave it. The kitchen does not ask you to move on. The moonlight does not ask you to move on. Nothing in this quiet room is waiting for you to be anywhere else. Notice, if you like, the small details that remain, unchanged, unhurried, exactly as they were. The chipped blue pitcher on the table, empty now of wildflowers, catching just a thread of pale moonlight along its rim. The folded napkins, still creased into their small, uneven triangles, resting where they were left. The flower on the counter, undisturbed, soft and pale as a light dusting of snow. Each of these small, ordinary things sits quietly in the dark, needing nothing, expecting nothing, simply being exactly what it is, in exactly the place it belongs. You can rest the same way, exactly as you are, exactly where you are, needing nothing, expecting nothing, simply being. Outside, the night continues its own slow work. The moon rises a little higher and a little higher again, sliding without hurry along its old, familiar path across the sky, the way it has slid along that same path every night for longer than the farmhouse has stood, longer than the fields have been planted, longer than anyone now sleeping in the house can remember or imagine. It does not rush. It has never once rushed. It simply continues, patient and full and silver, exactly as it is meant to. Down near the barn, the goat's bell gives one last soft clink and then falls still. A horse shifts its weight in its stall, straw rustling faintly, and then settles again into stillness. Somewhere out at the field's edge, a rabbit pauses in the moonlit grass, ears lifted, listening to the quiet, and then, finding nothing to fear in it, lowers its head again and continues on its slow, unhurried way through the silver wheat. The whole night moves like this, small, quiet motion folding into stillness, small, quiet stillness folding into rest, over and over, the same gentle pattern repeating itself endlessly across the sleeping farm. Inside, the kitchen breathes its own slow breath. The old clock ticks, the embers dim, the beams overhead hold their warm, familiar smell of wood smoke and baked bread, unhurried, unchanged, exactly as they have held it every evening for years and years before this one, and will hold it again exactly the same tomorrow evening, and the evening after that, and the evening after that, each one folding gently into the next, the way this one is folding now into night. You do not need to hold on to any single detail. Let them move past you instead, slow and soft, the way clouds move past a moon, the way water moves past a smooth stone in a riverbed, touching briefly and moving on, and touching again and moving on. The pitcher, the napkins, the flower, the bell down by the barn, the rabbit in the silver grass. Let each one arrive gently, and let each one go just as gently, asking nothing of you but a soft, unhurried noticing, and then release. The dog, curled near the cooling stove, dreams on. Its paw twitches once softly, chasing something slow and pleasant across some warm, half-remembered field, and then it stills again, its breathing settling back into its own slow, even rhythm, deep and untroubled. If you listen closely, in your imagination, you might hear that same soft breathing now, steady and slow, and you might let your own breath settle into that same gentle rhythm, matching it, slow in, slow out, needing no effort at all. Upstairs, in a small room at the top of worn wooden stairs, the girls sleep soundly beneath a quilt, stitched long ago by hands now resting quiet elsewhere in the house. Moonlight falls in a thin, silver line across the foot of her bed, and her breathing is slow and even and untroubled, the particular deep sleep that comes only after a long day spent outdoors in warm sun and fresh air, followed by a warm meal, followed by gentle arms carrying her the rest of the way to rest. She does not stir. She does not dream of anything urgent. She simply rests, fully, completely, the way you are resting now. Down the hall, the man and woman too have settled into their own quiet rest, the sounds of the house around them familiar and unthreatening, the old boards creaking faintly now and then as the house continues its own slow settling, the way it has settled every night for as long as they have lived within it. There is nothing in that sound to fear. It is only the house breathing, the way you are breathing, slow and even and safe. And so the whole farmhouse rests together, held inside its old stone walls, held beneath its low wooden beams, held within the soft gold memory of a kitchen that smelled of bread and stew and wood smoke only a few hours before, and now smells only of the quiet dark and the fading embers and the good ordinary comfort of a day well spent and a night well earned. If your mind should wander now, let it wander gently, without direction, the way the dust motes wandered earlier through that low stripe of golden light, rising and falling, going nowhere in particular, needing to arrive nowhere at all. There is no task waiting for you at the end of this thought. There is no ending you need to reach. There is only this long, slow, gentle unwinding, and you are welcome to let it carry you exactly as far as it wishes to carry you, into whatever quiet rest waits on the other side of these words. The crickets continue, soft and steady, a low hum beneath the wide dark sky, a sound so constant it becomes almost like silence itself, a sound your mind can rest inside without ever needing to listen closely. The moonlight continues its slow crossing of the kitchen floor, inch by patient inch. The clock continues its soft, even tick, marking time that no one in the house needs to measure any longer tonight. Everything continues gently, quietly, without urgency, the way your own breath continues now, without your needing to think about it at all, in and out, slow and soft and safe. Let the kitchen hold you a little longer, let the moonlight hold you a little longer, let the low hush of the sleeping farm, the fields, the barn, the house, hold you the rest of the way down into sleep, gently, slowly, the way a hand closes gently, slowly, around something small and precious, holding it safe through the whole long night, and letting it go, softly, only when morning finally, gently, arrives. There is nothing more to happen here tonight. The story has already told itself gently to its end, the way a fire burns itself gently down to embers, the way a day folds itself gently down into night. You do not need to wait for anything else. You do not need to hold on to anything else. You may simply rest here in the moonlit hush of this quiet farmhouse kitchen for as long as you need, drifting further and further from thought, further and further into sleep, safe and warm and unhurried and still. The night grows even quieter now. The clock ticks softly. The embers glow faintly. Somewhere far off, the owl calls once more. Then nothing. The wheat bends slowly. The moon climbs higher. The house settles deeper. Nothing here needs to hurry. Nothing here needs to change. The pot is empty and cool now, resting on the stove the way a held breath rests. Finally, in the quiet after it is released, the bread is only crumbs now, scattered lightly across a wooden board, forgotten until morning. The napkins rest folded. The pitcher rests empty. The chairs rest pushed back at their same soft, uneven angles. Everything rests. The dog rests, curled small and warm. The girl rests deep beneath her quilt. The man and woman rest side by side, their breathing slow and even, and matched to one another the way two clocks in the same quiet room, slowly, gently, fall into the same soft rhythm. The fields rest. The barn rests. The animals within it rest. The whole farm, house and field and hill rests together beneath one wide, unhurried sky. And you may rest here too, just as you are, just where you are, no further than this, no further than this soft, low hush, no further than this warm, quiet dark. Let your breath grow slower still. Let your shoulders grow heavier still. Let your thoughts, whatever few remain, grow soft and slow and far away, like the last dim light of a lamp being turned down, low and lower still, until only a small, warm glow remains, and then, gently, not even that, only rest, only quiet, only the soft, dark folding around you, the way it folds around the sleeping kitchen, the sleeping fields, the sleeping house, the sleeping night. There is nowhere else to be. There is nothing else to do. There is only this slow, warm, unhurried dark. Only this soft farmhouse kitchen, resting quietly under moonlight, holding its long, gentle hush around you, the way it has held it every night, and will hold it again, every night, unchanging, unhurried, safe. Rest now, rest, and let the quiet hold you. Rest, and let the stillness carry you gently the rest of the way home.